What's up, guys? Welcome back for another video. So obviously we had some of the big news that came out during the week. We had the US getting the framework, getting the stipulation, the foundation for a deal going forward with Denmark over the island of Greenland. This story, it's been dominating news waves for quite some time at this point. The big news, were we going to purchase Greenland? Were we going to invade Greenland, take control of it? This had also reignited tariff battles between the United States, the EU, potentially Canada. What was going to happen? This kind of turned into a little bit of a mess at this point. But the big news coming out yesterday or the day before was the frameworks for a deal, not just with Denmark, but with the EU itself and with Canada as well. How did all these other third parties get lumped up into the sum here? Really makes no sense. Why was the US not negotiating directly with Denmark? That's not the US's fault. It's actually Denmark. Why does Denmark have the EU stand up for them? That really makes no sense. Some of the news coming out was that we were willing to go up to $700 billion to purchase Greenland and give the Greenlanders money. Some people were saying $100,000 per person, up to $1.5 million per Greenlander. That's what you call generational wealth. I don't know if that was the best deal for the US necessarily, but definitely for the people who live on the island, that would have set them up for life and their kids and their grandkids up for life as well. But the biggest thing is Denmark chose to not negotiate on their own behalf. Denmark's a very small country, very small GDP, very small population. Actually, the entire country of Denmark has a population just barely over 6 million people with a GDP of $533.752 billion. That's not a small GDP, but it's definitely on the lower side. Obviously, nowhere near the US's, which is just extremely massive. And we were willing to pay $700 billion, which is more than the entire GDP of their entire country. Obviously, that would have been a massive boon for them economically. Really, when you look at Greenland, when you look at the natural minerals that are there, when you look at all the metals that can come out of the island, they don't have the resources, they don't have the capital to take advantage of that. Neither does the EU. The US was willing to pay well above market price $700 billion for Greenland, and we have the capital, the banking power to mine the island, set up the infrastructure. It would take a long-term investment, years and years and years, to build the roads, the mines. It would provide massive high-paying jobs to the people on top of the vast amount of money that they would also be getting just themselves being Greenlanders. Denmark did not do, to me personally, what was in the best interest of their country, because really they're gaining less and less power every single year over the island of Greenland. 2020, they voted to be independent from Denmark, so they're not independent, but they are able to rule themselves. But with each passing year, they become more separate from Denmark. So the time will come when Denmark will get absolutely zero, absolutely nothing for Greenland. This was their chance, but because Europe just honestly doesn't like Trump so much, they blinded themselves from what was in the best interest of their population and their people as well. But no matter what, they did strike a deal. What the deal kind of gives us, it's kind of murky as of right now what the US is going to get, because the way Trump was talking, we were not settling for anything less than the entire control of the island. We wanted the Arctic control. We wanted control of the shipping routes. We wanted to be able to extend the Golden Dome across Canada all the way across to Greenland. So people are saying this deal that we have, supposedly what the deal is going to give us. Let me see if I can get a quick synopsis of what we're getting. So basically what we're getting is we have the framework. So not a full deal, but the framework of a future deal with Greenland, which includes discussions on the Golden Dome missile defense system and the potential inclusion of Canada in the program. So Canada's getting roped in here. They do have a lot of Arctic shelf themselves, a lot of Arctic frontier. It all borders right across the Arctic from Russia. So technically, what they're saying is if Russia was to launch a missile across the ocean at us, it would have to fly over Greenland and Canada. And obviously, if we had the Iron Dome over there, we'd be able to shoot it down potentially over Canada, but at least away from the United States mainland. So we're going to include them into this system. So yet still, one of the big issues, we are paying for the defense of Denmark and Canada. Looks like we're still doing that but are they going to be supplementing us with access to natural resources? This agreement is aimed to ensure Arctic security, prevent Russia or China from gaining a foothold in Greenland, which honestly, that never really made too much sense to me anyways, but whatever. The deal also addressed the strategic importance of Greenland's mineral resources and the need for U.S. military presence at our Space Force base that we do have there on the island currently. But the actual details of what is enclosed in the deal have not been provided by the administration so far. So we don't really know what is in the deal. We know the basic framework of it, some things that are going to be touched on, but how much access are we getting to the island? They said that they'd let us build more bases. We could build more bases anyways. So people on both sides are complaining about this deal, but I don't really have complaints because I don't know what is in the framework. What I know is we were supposed to get complete full control of the island originally. Looks like that's not going to end up happening. Are we getting some type of limited control? Are they just letting us build a couple bases? Are they giving our companies access to the mineral rights, which I guess that might help the people higher paying jobs, mining jobs, but really looks like Denmark is just also continuing to benefit here. And I honestly think the EU probably feels like they got away with one. They stood up to President Trump, stood their ground. Denmark hid behind the EU, did not negotiate anything on their country's behalf, on their citizens' behalf, on the Greenlanders' behalf. They just said, no, 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 kind of like a petulant child to everything that was offered them. They let the EU do what the EU thought was best for the EU and not for Denmark individually. That's one of the massive complaints I have with conglomerate organizations that look at the whole sum and not the few. These people were elected to lead their individual countries, not Europe. But really, practically at the end of the day, we almost had a complete trade war reignited over the island of Greenland. And since Trump won the election, he made it an emphasis that he was going to bring Greenland into U.S. play under our control. It does not look like that's happening. So some people that are critical are saying that this is a taco moment. What that stands for is Trump always chickens out. I don't like that saying because that's definitely not the case. He definitely doesn't do that. But sometimes when you talk so much smack and you fail to live up to it, you do invite that type of criticism on yourself. Looks like this might be one of those situations. I mean, literally, we were threatening war and invading Greenland. NATO was saying that they were going to fight us, which is just a complete joke. Let's just be honest here. We are NATO. They don't have militaries. They can't even fully transport militaries to the island to put up any type of reasonable defense. They just sent a couple soldiers there. What, France and Germany sent 15 soldiers each. What is that going to do? There's 57,000 people on the island. You would have zero chance if we did decide to invade mainland Greenland. Absolutely nothing would happen. The battle would be over in 1 or 2 days easily, and that's a serious comment. But either way, looks like we're not gaining control of it. We're just going to be paying or supplementing again for Denmark to control the island of Greenland, which honestly just works out in their benefit, works out in their favor more. It is an icy island, but we're the only country with the resources, the capital, the ability to build the infrastructure. Why would we do that for free for Greenland, for Denmark, for the EU if we're not getting anything out of it? We need to get massive stuff. We already covered most of the spending for NATO. NATO's worthless. It is what it is. Why do we continue to pump money into foreign countries? How much money is actually coming back to the U.S. to help our people, to help our citizens, to get our costs of living down? That's the massive questions. That's what we want to find out here with this deal that happened in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. But it's the frameworks of a deal. So the tariffs are not going into effect. I don't know if Trump was maybe scared because the stock market went down this week when the tariffs were originally announced. They were supposed to start this month and then by February 2nd go up to 25% on the EU goods. But looks like we're completely backing off of that. I don't know if they won. We definitely didn't win. I don't know that they won, but if I had to pick a side, I'd probably say that they came out with the better hand. They're keeping the country, and we are investing money into extracting the resources in a foreign country, which is just going to make them money. What they weren't capable of doing, we're doing it. and we're not doing it under our own citizens' control. But either way, that's the big news coming out right now. But you know the way this stuff works. Whatever happened this week, the complete opposite could happen next week. This could get rug pulled out from under us. Terrorists could be back on. We could be taking control of Greenland. I'm not even saying that I'm pro or conning that. I don't really have an opinion on Greenland. It's just we didn't in any way follow through on any of our threats so far. Things are still early. We know this stuff changes week to week. Let's keep our eye on what's happening. I don't really know what the fascination is with Greenland. I don't buy the Russia China stuff. I don't think they care about Greenland. They have their own natural resources. They have their own Arctic control. The EU, if they really wanted the Arctic control, if they wanted it under guard, they would let us have Greenland. Pressure Denmark, had a country of 6 million, hide behind the EU. Now they're getting no money. Greenland's getting no money, but we are investing money into the country. We're just not going to get that much out of it from what it looks like right now. But let's just wait to see more, guys. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, drop a comment. What are your thoughts? And have a good one.